is to provide a safe and caring climate and culture in which we engage, inspire, educate, prepare, and empower all learners in partnership with their surrounding community to be successful in today's and tomorrow's society. Bruce, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. And then when you're ready, can you please call roll?
Here.
Natalie Copeland.
Here.
Zach Dorholt. Here. Diana Fenton.
Here.
Shannon Hahn.
Here.
Bruce Hentges is here. And Heather Wing.
Here.
All board members are present.
Bruce. You're welcome.
Do I need to do that again? No, I think everybody probably. Just kidding. The following cabinet members and staff are present at the district office with us. Superintendent, Dr. Lori Putnam. Assistant Superintendent for E5 Learning, Nikki Hansen. Assistant Superintendent for E12 Educational Services, Shannon Avenson. Executive Director of Community Education, Adam Holm. Executive Director of Finance and Business Services, Amy Scalarud. Executive Director of Operations, Joel Heitkamp. Executive Director of Research, Enrollment, and Assessments, Donna Roper. Executive Director of Special Projects, Gary Ganji. Executive Director of Community Engagement and Communications, Tammy DeLand. Media Technicians, Paul Novak and Gordy Scott. And custodian on site is Austin Goodwater.
Thank you. Then I'm looking for a motion to approve tonight's Board of Education meeting and work session agenda.
So move.
Second.
Classic. I have a motion by Scott, a second by Natalie. Bruce, can you call vote?
Turn my mic on.
Yeah. You can just keep it on for a little bit.
I think I will do that. Okay. Heather Weems. Bruce Hentges votes yes. Shannon Haas.
Yes.
Diana Fenton. Zach Dorholt. Natalie Copeland.
Yes.
And Scott Andresen.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Then we have the consent agenda. The consent agenda consists of non-controversial items that the board adopts routinely without debate. Any single member may remove an item from the consent agenda by requesting removal at the time the consent agenda is moved for adoption. On tonight's consent agenda, item A, approval of personnel staff changes. Item B, approval of monthly financial report for November 2024. Item C, approval of monthly treasurer's report for November 2024. And item D, approval of amended 2025 legislative platform. At this time, does any board member wish to remove an item from the consent agenda? Okay, then I'm looking for a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda as read.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Mixing it up there. We'll go
Okay.
with Bruce, and do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, second by Scott. Bruce, can you call vote again?
Scott Andresen.
Yes.
Natalie Copeland.
Yes.
Zach Dorholt.
Yes.
Diana Fenton.
Yes.
Shannon Haas.
Yes.
Bruce Hentges votes yes. And Heather Weems.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. First up, we have information items. One exciting information item tonight, we have the Preschool for Success update, and we have Nikki Hansen, the superintendent of E5 Learning, will be introducing our presenters tonight.
All right, just give me 1 minute. We have a little bit of spinning happening with technology. All right, good evening, Chair Haas, Superintendent Putnam, and members of the board. Tonight, I get the privilege of introducing Amy Tromley and Gayla Holmgren, two community partners who wear many hats in our community. And tonight are here as Rotarians sharing an update on our Preschool for Success partnership with District 742. So welcome, Amy, and welcome, Gayla.
Let's see, is my mic on? Yes. Thank you so much. We are really delighted to be here and update you on our Preschool for Success program. I'd like to start by backtracking a little bit and tell you how a group of Rotarians got involved in preschool. It really started with a book club. It was a national goal in Rotary, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And our Rotary Club, a group of about 15 people, got together and did some reading of various articles and books on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and achievement gap and graduation rates. And we had a discussion that night, a really engaging discussion. And out of that came the commitment that we wanted to do something in our community to affect the graduation rates and the achievement gap and diversity and equity and inclusion. And that's how preschool started. But we had to go back to our club and convince them to do that we wanted to do this. So we brought in some of the St. Cloud District preschool teachers who presented to us and brought in a lot of data, and we did some research. And what we wanted to do is make it a signature project. I've been in Rotary for over 30 years, and every 5-6 years we have a signature project. We've done Pathways for Youth, COP Houses, Summertime by George, Building Houses with Humanity, Habitat for Humanity. And so we wanted to make it a signature project. And to do that, we had to have the entire club vote on that. Heather's a Rotarian too. You've probably been involved in a couple of these. So we took it to the club and we presented some data about why we wanted to do this. And one of the things was that 35,000 students in Minnesota are not ready with the skills they need to start kindergarten. That's a terrible statistics. And we know too, and we told them about Bill Gates about how the first 5 years affect how the next 80 turn out. And that kids start behind, never catch up. So we got together with our club and made some presentations, and we talked about not just the humanitarian aspect of it, but the economic aspect. A lot of CEOs and business people in Rotary. And for every dollar invested in preschool, there's a $16 return to the community. Or another way to say it is there's a 7 to 10% return on their investment. So we tried to show them that it benefited them as a community to invest in preschool. We also showed them some research, and one of my favorite ones was a Perry study. And the Perry study was done in Michigan, and it followed preschool kids for 40 years. And what they found is they followed those kids through those 40 years that were in preschool. They had a control group that was not in preschool, and then the Perry study kids. They found that they were more successful in life. They had higher earning, greater academic success, and had better health even as adults. And as students, they found that they had less special ed referrals, they had less discipline problems, higher graduation rates. In fact, the Perry study, as you can see on the slide there, the graduation rate was 80% for their group of preschoolers compared to 60% in the non-preschool students. So that was some of the data we presented to them, and they agreed. And we agreed that it takes the community to raise a child, and they supported that as a signature project. Usually they're 3 years. We're into our 4th year with this one. And it involves not just donating money from our foundation, it also involves what we call boots on the ground, which means we get involved, that we are actively involved in the program, not just donating money to it. So here are some of our partners. This is a partnership between the district and the Rotary Club, but we have many other partners as well. We have, I think, probably over 50 Rotarians that have donated $500 to $1,000 in scholarship money. Many community members. Gary Marsden is my co-chair, and he has been contacting a lot of community members. He's been out sending out thank you letters, and we're still getting money back in as we have he fundraises that continue to earn money for the scholarship program and donations. But you can see there, we also have large donations from like the Ritchie Foundation, the St. Cloud Morning Optimist Club has several years given us money, the Center Care Foundation, Initiative Foundation, Parker Foundation, Stearns Electric, Center Care, Leaf, and Shields. I probably am missing a couple there because we continue to fundraise and we continue to get donations. Three of our important partners, they're all important, but United Way has just been a vital partner. Amy's here from United Way. She serves on our board. We have a 15-person board that has been meeting monthly now for over 3 years. And we have Reach Up Head Start and Boys and Girls Club on the board as well. The Boys and Girls Club, actually the first year, we did use their classrooms because the school district did not have classrooms, and we offered the program there. A little bit about funding. That first year, we had actually less than a year to plan, which is probably not ideal. But we did get the program up and running that first year, but we didn't have classrooms, so we used the Boys and Girls Club. And then we didn't have busing. Gary Ganji really tried to, at that time, to accommodate it, but we just could not accommodate the busing, and of course, then the parents couldn't get them there. So even though we wanted to have about 90 kids, we only had 29 and ended the year with 25. Mike Rivard was on our board at that time, and Nikki has replaced him now. And Mike Rivard was just very, very instrumental in helping us resolve that the second year. And we were able to put the classrooms back in the building, get them on the bus routes, and we were able to do 96 kids and fundraise there. You can see over $120,000. And the same thing with the third year. We had 96 kids and again raised over $100,000. This year, I'm happy to report we're still working on it. In fact, I just got a report today, and we had some more checks coming in. We have over $100,000, and I'm sure we'll get a bit more. The first year, as I said, we were in the Boys and Girls Club. We had ended with 25 kids. The program, we used a school district curriculum. And at that year, we had 3 classrooms, or let's see, 3 sections in those 2 sites. And we used the school district curriculum. We hired the teachers, St. Cloud School District employees they are, and the paraprofessional. And that was the program the first year. And the second year then, one of the goals, as I said, boots on the ground, one of the goals was to get involved in the group in preschool through community activities. And so we had a community activity, and we are continuing to do that. And we had 4-year-old programs that year. And because of, again, classroom space, we moved into some 3-year-old programs. And our goal was 96 students. We did get 96 students, and we finished the year with 96 students. Let's see, they were at Discovery and Quarry View and Talahi. And we got into the classroom a little bit. One of the goals is to do volunteering in the classroom as well as the community events. Gary and I started it out with gingerbread men. I think there's a slide in here of Gary with them making cookies. And so he and I did that. And then we've brought Rotarians in where we did finger paint giveaway, and they played with kids and did finger painting, went to the gym and did some playing. We'll have about 15 Rotarians that will come in and volunteer on those activities. Recently, we've done the hats and mittens, and this year, for the first time, we gave winter coats to all 90 kids in the program. And it's not just giving them the coats, it's coming in and engaging with them and spending some time with them when we do that. And now at this point, our goal was to have 30% of our Rotarians volunteering in the program, and we're over 35%, so we're pretty happy about that. Let's see, what else have I got here? Oh, signature projects aren't a forever thing. Usually they're 3 years, sometimes they go a little longer. We're into our 4th year. So one of our goals always was to work with the legislature to get additional funding. And we have gone, both the last 2 years, we've had Rotary Days at the Capitol, and we've met with legislators, and we've advocated for additional funding, and we will continue to do that. Now, the hard part is the statistics. Amy's going to share the statistics. And she's going to, and that's been something that we just did this year. And Janie Conway worked with us, and she was just wonderful, listening to what we wanted, going back and working at it, bringing it back, making it user-friendly for a bunch of Rotarians. And so, and a lot of it is, again, with the elementary skills, so I'm going to let Amy do that because she's got a background.
Well, as a former preschool student of the St. Cloud Area School District that went to Washington and had Marcia Elg for preschool, and Bruce Henches as a social studies teacher, and Gayla Holmgren as a principal, graduating from Tech High School in 1996, is an honor to be here to present to you this great data. And really, what we have here in St. Cloud and what the district is making happen is a program like no other. There are, communities across the state that are jealous of this kind of public-private partnership, and we're making it happen through so many great opportunities and the leadership of Rotary. And Rotary sucked me in by doing this project, and what a great way to get involved. And so looking at the data, and this data right here that you're looking at is not new data to most of you for the most part, but when we look at the reading proficiency of kids, we know that kids actually need to be wired by age 3 to be reading proficiently and at grade level each year beyond that. So what are we doing early on? Because when we invest early, we get a great ROI. What we though see in the end is that we can start looking at it at that 3rd grade reading proficiency, and we've started to look at it even earlier, which is next in these slides. But what we know, and you see across the line, there are all students in Minnesota in the reading proficiency. And then you look at St. Cloud Area School District's reading proficiency, and how that is broken out. Then we go specifically deeper down into areas where we know there are more, I like to call them delivery gaps. Maybe school districts don't always appreciate that as much, or because when we think about academic gaps or achievement gaps or opportunity gaps, it's really, how am I delivering my services so that people are satisfied and getting the product that they need? And so if we're not delivering that as best we can, how are we going to change our delivery models to make sure that that client, that student, that child is benefiting from it? Because if I'm going to the gym and I'm not getting a good, workout, or if I'm not going to a restaurant, I'm not getting the product I'm hoping for, it's a delivery issue, and it takes 2 people on that. So we look at it that way. And there are some definite strategic gaps that we at Preschool for Success in the Rotary want to look at focusing on and targeting, so that kids have the pockets that the coins stay in, so that they can contribute back to society later on, and every child deserves that. And so we look at our students living in poverty. We look at our multilingual learners who are learning in a different language at home and are multilingual, and they're coming with 2 languages to school, framing that as an asset. And when we're assessing them in not their first language, there are going to be gaps that we see in this data. And so how do we change that narrative for our community and these young people? So those are the 2 focus groups we've really looked at, is students living in poverty and multilingual learners. In and amongst that is also our BIPOC population, which we also have focused on as well. So as young people our families are able to enroll, they do need to qualify as a student who is living in low socioeconomic conditions, which in the district is considered free and reduced lunch, so that they can access this program for free, so they can start school off on the right foot. And so as we looked at our data and our demographics for the district, as well as the goals of the Rotary, we wanted to make sure our demographics and the populations we were trying to serve and support in growth areas and opportunities to have a better delivery model, making sure we're delivering these services to the students who need it the most. We were able to see through the great collaboration with Jamie and Nikki leading that, pulling the data, those percentages across the board, are the populations we're looking to serve. Then we get into the really cool stuff, that we're really excited about and looking at that long-term trajectory. So we really appreciate the partnership with Nikki and Donna and team and Jamie to start looking at, what we are doing, is that making a difference? right? Because just delivering something, just providing and having, attended does not necessarily mean you're having the kinds of impact that you want to have, right? Surgeons might do 100 surgeries, but if 90 of them are botched, that's not a very good delivery model. We want to make sure that we're also delivering on that. And so when we look at students on free and reduced lunch meal status, what you'll see here is their first grade, the breakdown of the students that we're serving. And so when we look at that breakdown of the kids now, so these are now kindergartners and first graders when we look at the district-wide. Some of them have moved from free and reduced lunch to being on a paid status within their family model, and that's a great thing to be considering. But this is the breakdown that of the students that we're serving now that they are in the district full-time. We also will look at retention in a little bit too. Right now, we'll look at retention. Look at that. I knew where we were going. So here we've done a great job of looking at, are the kids who are coming into the district, right? If we're investing in them early, are they also staying here? Because as a community that has a great education system with open enrollment opportunities, parochial school opportunities, charter school opportunities, they have these options. And so I think there's a belief also if they start with us, they will see the great product that we have and they can stay with us in the district. And these are students, again, living in low socioeconomic conditions, and we know the transiency of some of those populations. And so when we see that 80% of those young people who started with us in Preschool for Success are also staying with us, like, I don't have the actual demographic or the data to say like what the actual retention rate is, but like to me, that's really impressive. So might be something for the district to look at what that retention rate is for a normal cohort and whatnot of students. But to me, that's amazing that if they're coming in, they're staying with us. And so then we wanted to look at some sorts of different types of impact that it's also having on the children that are participating in the program. And, we don't have strong social emotional data yet that we can look at. There is a kindergarten fall assessment that's supposed to be starting in 2026 or 2025 in the fall. I don't know if that's going to actually happen, but I'm nerdily excited about that. But the district does their FastBridge early reading assessments and FastBridge early math. And so here what you'll see is district-wide, 42% of kids are on target on their early reading assessments that they take. And the kids who attended Preschool for Success, so it's not only preschool, it's not preschool, but it's the Preschool for Success classes, so the boots on the ground, some of the additional supports and wraparounds, they were performing at 49.6% on target. So you see a 7.6% increase, and that's what that talks about over the overall district average. And then if you look at the sum risk, which means they're kind of on the bubble, and what that means is if they're on target, they're statistically on track to pass or be proficient on the third grade MCAs. And so sum risk means like a little bit of intervention could be really helpful. 25.6% of the district, 24% of the students, so that's what you want to see. And then, of course, the high risk is still there. And so seeing that about 8% of the percentage points higher than the rest of the district are these kids who attended Preschools for Success is happening. That shows us some impact. Again, statistical analysis, we'd have to, probably pay like $30,000 for that, but we're seeing that happen. And we also see that then in early math, again, district-wide, 62.6%, and those kids who are on target for math, 73.5%, so about an 11% increase above and beyond the general population here. Again, we believe there are some pieces within that, and we want to continue to track that so we can see those positive impacts, right? That ROI that we're able to have by investing in these young people earlier. Now, early reading and early math, they're going to test more of a broad scope of what children have from basic literacy skills, which is, reading, writing, listening, interpreting, comprehending, all of those pieces when you're a 5 or a 6-year-old. Letter names and letter sounds is a very skill-based concept, right? We can teach kids this is an A, this is a B, this is a C. It's much harder to teach a complex literacy expectation of making connections through text, for example. And when we look at this to see even a higher percentage rate of success for these students shows us that we can teach these skills to young children. So much of their life, right, 80% of brain development happens in the first 3 years of life. And so we're capturing on that, 3 years and 4-year-olds, that we can really build on that. And we're able to deliver these types of skills to kids who might not have access to them. So it's great to see 16% above where the general district is, that, again, these kids who are in the Preschool for Success program are showing. And we see the same, type of information with letter sounds. So again, when you can teach those simple skills to kids, those skills then turn into the ability to move on to those higher level thinking skills and connections. So lots of great data to share with you on the impact side of things, but really being able to offer a young person a loving, caring environment where they feel accepted and wanting to be, and the joy of being able to make gingerbread people with Gary and Gayla, all of that is even more meaningful than those basic numbers.
So we were so excited to see this data, and it really made us feel like we're making a difference. And so that's why I think we're so motivated to continue. And that's part of what the plans are for this year. This year we have 6 classrooms at Madison, Lincoln, and Talahi. And we're 4-year-olds, only 4-year-olds this year, 3 teachers and 3 paras. But we're really focusing on advocating this year with the legislature and trying to get additional funding. We are very excited that Senator Putnam is working with us and has drafted a bill, and it's a bill that would give us additional funding for 2 years, and we would be a pilot site for the state, a model for other communities to look at. Again, an opportunity to gather additional data to look at what we're doing and why it's successful, and have other communities take a look at that. So the legislature would also say that we needed to continue our partnership and continue our involvement, our boots on the ground, and that Rotary would have to continue contributing financially as well. So we're very excited about that, and Amy and I and Gary will be going down to the Senate in March and doing some testifying and hoping that that pans out, and then we would be moving into 5 and 6 years. So we love this quote. This was a quote from our very first night. It's easier to build strong children than to build or to repair broken men. And that came out of our very first discussion. And we're just really focused on the fact that if we can make a difference in our community by focusing on preschool. So we'll take questions. I'm going to show a few pictures here while you take some questions. A couple community events there, working with the Spring Fling, and then the winter event. We also did one down at the Roosevelt Park down there with pizza and pop and all kinds of games and activities. And then you see John Bodette volunteering, and like I said, we have a bunch of Rotarians that have been getting in the classroom, and it's so valuable to our Rotarians who probably have never been in a preschool classroom, certainly aren't aware of the diversity and challenge the school district has. They walk away just amazed and so impressed and really more committed. So, questions?
Then Scott?
Did you turn your microphone off or on? I can hear you just fine, but all the people who are watching at home want to hear these questions.
You understand this is my first meeting back, so I forget
So I'm here to help
turning
you.
this microphone on and off. But just looking at a little bit of your data regarding early reading, 49% of students are on target for kindergarten for early reading, 74% for math. How do you explain that difference?
That's a great question for Nikki.
They are different assessments, and so they test different standards, right? So when we look at this, one thing that I want to point out is when we're looking at those increases for that cohort of pre-K for success students, you're looking at a cohort of all students who got a preschool experience. When you're looking at that compared to district, you're looking at some students who got a preschool experience and some students who did not. And so currently we have 706 kindergartners within District 742. 342 of them are currently this month in a 4-year-old program, which means we're currently serving in a 4-year-old preschool program about half of our incoming kindergartners. And so when you see some of that discrepancy in success, that is where some of that lies.
I'm looking more for the discrepancy between kindergarten readiness for math versus kindergarten readiness for reading.
I'm going
Is
way
it-
back to the first.
Is it more common for students to be ready for math than for reading?
I would say my gut tells me, Bruce, without the historical trends and patterns in that, not necessarily. I think it depends a lot on the students who are showing up. This was also our first year. So this comparative data to last school year was the first year we implemented FastBridge assessments. So we had a change in our assessments. And so we're watching closely what are the trends and patterns telling us, and then what are our instructional next steps. So I think at this point in our data, we just don't know yet because of the earliness of these new assessments.
Okay, thank you. Well, my second question was going to be, does the Preschool for Success program operate separately than the district's preschool?
Now I forgot my mic.
So it's
Just
the
make me
same
feel good.
curriculum across all
Yep.
okay.
It is the same curriculum. They are district teachers. They are supported by our district leaders and district resources. And so it really is a partnership in the hiring and supporting of those teachers and those students, along with the funding and great collaboration with Rotary.
Are these half-day programs or all-day programs?
Our 4-year-old program is half-day. Yep, there's an AM session and a PM session. So you see 3 classrooms, 6 sessions, or 6 groups of students.
Okay. How many of these kids can understand English? Are we teaching English at this level, or what do we got?
Yes, absolutely. We are teaching English and they understand English. Yep.
We provide lunch and breakfast, or
We do. That is an exciting update. This is the first year that with that Universal Meals program for our AM session, we provide breakfast. For our PM session, we provide lunch. So that is a new update this year, and we are getting really good reviews from teachers and from students and families.
thank you.
Thank you, Galen, Amy. I was there the first night when we had the conversation, so I do appreciate, and I want to highlight the role that Rotary plays and these signature projects. And when Rotary commits to doing something, they roll up their sleeves and they make it happen. That said, I guess my question is more about the funding, because the signature projects always usually have an exit plan. And obviously, with legislative support or without legislative support at this point, what is the sustainability of the program? And I know when Rotary starts its projects, the intention is not to leave them or back away from something that isn't continuing. So if the legislature doesn't come through, both from a district and a Rotary perspective, what happens next, and how long are we prepared to support it in the 50-50 share?
I don't think I can really answer that. You know, we are still fundraising, and we aren't taking money from the foundation this year. It's all fundraising. And so it's a big question. The goal was to, because signature projects, there's an exit plan, as Heather said, and like Pathways for Youth was turned over to Lutheran Social Services. Our exit plan was the legislature. And they haven't come through. I know some funding was increased this last year. They haven't come through, but that's really our exit plan, because Rotary is not in the business of doing preschools forever or any of our projects. That isn't with our mission that we do a long-term forever project. But we're committed to work with the legislature. When we started, there were 250 kids on the waiting list. And our goal, these were kids that qualified based on state guidelines. However, the state didn't give the school district enough money to provide the preschool for all of them. So our goal was to eliminate that waiting list, and it's still our goal. And we check in with Nikki every meeting, how many kids on the waiting list now, and it has gone down considerably. I don't know what it is today.
Today is 119. And so those are 4-year-olds who are registered and waiting to get in. And so that is one of our goals as a team, is how do we continue to look at giving those opportunities and that access. The other thing that I just want to mention is we've been in good partnership and communication, so we were aware that this is not a long-term forever thing. And District 742 has been working to provide every VPK opportunity and get those grants. And we are happy to stay committed to trying to sustain those classrooms that we have established. And so we've been aware of that in our staffing process and looking to those grants and opportunities to sustain what we have started as a partnership.
Yeah, that 119 brings instant tears to my eyes, no lie, because we talk about preschool for success when we need to talk about something happy here on the school board, that we talk about preschool for success. I mean, it's just, there's so much beauty in the reason why you did it and what you're seeing because of that. And there's still a long way to go. And I agree with you, the legislature is the only way that we can ensure early learning for all students. And I think it's really important, though, to keep bringing up that 119, because these are what families are like, yes. And then they're like, how? So it's not a desire, it's not a lack of desire. It's just a lack of lots of other things that we need to make it happen. And so thank you for meeting that need that is so great in our community. The retention rate of 80%, we also like to hear that because that's something we talk about a lot, is retaining our students for all that we can. I remember well we want to provide busing, but it was during the pandemic, and how do we do that? And then you were able to the next time, and it's just those access and opportunities and reducing those barriers that has been at the key to the success of this plan. So thank you for doing that. This is the reason why people look to St. Cloud in the education system in Minnesota to say, we need to look at what St. Cloud's doing, because it is that private-public partnership that we're all really proud of that we have in this community. And not only that, but like when you say how many people gave $500 to $1,000, like that's a lot of money. And for that to be directly benefiting a family in our community, it's a beautiful thing. The reason 119 just really gets me, I think, is because I worked at a church just so my kids could have free preschool, because we really didn't have the money for them to go and pay for it. So, and that was my privilege to be able to do that and have a music degree to work there in order to do that. But that's basically what I wanted to just put on the table, is that sometimes I think in our community it can be like, oh, but if families families want. But there just always isn't a bridge. And so thank you for being part of that bridge. Really appreciate you.
We are 37th in the nation for providing preschool to 4-year-olds.
State of Minnesota.
The state of Minnesota, yes. So that's why we need to work with the legislature.
Yeah, you guys haven't heard this, but I taught in Georgia, and during that time I was teaching there, they made free preschool for all. And the gains that they've made in the last 20 years have been pretty amazing because of it. But yeah, all right, legislature, let's go.
Do they differentiate that number between urban and rural or different types of school districts? So do we know when it says that we're 37th ranking wise, are urban or our wealthier schools in better position and is part of that, just the overall discrepancy in some of our urban and rural schools.
So my understanding of that number is it's 37th in the nation for how our governments invest
Invest.
in schools and being able to provide preschool. So it's not me taking it out of my pocket so my child can have preschool. It's the dollars invested into children, into 3-year-olds.
I think that was in the Star Tribune, wasn't it? If I remember right.
Star Tribune, and if you really want the data, I can send you all the links about it. It's really cool. I think it might even be linked in the presentation.
Okay. Well, Gayla and Amy, thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for choosing us. Thank you for all the work that's being done. Our district and our community is very fortunate. Thanks.
Thanks to all of you making it happen, because not every school district across the nation, across the state would do something as brave as this. So thanks to you for making it happen.
Okay, moving on to discussion and action items. Tonight, we just have one item in this category. It's a discussion item. It is the elementary school boundaries presented by Nikki Hansen, Assistant Superintendent of E5 Learning, and Joel Heitkamp, Executive Director of Operations.
Yes, good evening again, Chair Haas, Superintendent Putnam, and members of the board. Now we get to transition to working with Executive Director Heitkamp and giving you a Southside Elementary School enrollment and space facilities, realities and current updates. And so just to give a little bit of the facilities landscape, we know that we currently have challenges for space at Oak Hill and Talahi, and we currently have space opportunities that exist at Clearview. This slide is going to show you some enrollment trends from 2015-16 to current. One thing to note that this enrollment does not include preschool, those 4-year-old classrooms that we just talked about. And we did make a push to get all of those preschool classes back in their school communities for a number of reasons, because we felt it was best for kids and their experience in education to support them in their next steps. And so that current number on the side also includes those preschool 4-year-old classrooms that are within those spaces. One thing you'll note up on the Oak Hill, that top line, is you'll see that trend at 776. They currently have 3 preschool classrooms serving about 90 students. So 90 students are added to that current number. You'll see Talahi and Lincoln next. We had about 3-4 years ago that 2 schools, one community movement, where we have our pre-K through 3rd graders at Talahi and our 4th and 5th graders serving at Lincoln. This year, we did add one of those preschool for success classrooms back to that Talahi Lincoln community. They now serve 4 preschool classrooms, 2 at Talahi and 2 at Lincoln, to provide space. Talahi was out of classroom space. We had a slight opportunity at Lincoln. And so because they serve the same families, we were able to serve some preschoolers at Lincoln. You'll see the yellow highlights in 22, 23, 23, 24. That is when we did the swap. When we initially started, it was 3rd through 5th grade at Lincoln, and then we transitioned 3rd grade to Talahi, because again, we had space concerns at Lincoln, and so we were doing the best we could with the space we had available. But that's why those numbers kind of flip-flop there. And then at Clearview, you'll see in 15-16, we had 485 students, and currently we've seen a decrease over the years to maintaining pretty consistent numbers right around 400, which is where we see that space opportunity for these 2 communities.
Each year, as we begin thinking about where the space is at and where there may be constraints in the future, we do reach out to some of our partners. And so we did reach out to city planning and got some updates for the near future. And so what you see right now is a map of the entire district, and you'll see another map on the next slide here that also highlights a little bit easier where the schools are for each of them. But if you look, just go back one real quick, right in the middle, you'll see there are 4 red dots kind of all together. Those all fall within the Oak Hill area. And then the 1 dot off to the east, or the right side of that map, is in the Talahi area. So if you go ahead now, Nikki, thank you. You'll see the entirety of the district of where each boundary lies. And again, with the constraints we currently have at Oak Hill, and knowing that there are 4 somewhat large developments happening in those areas, trying to project for the future that could cause some future constraints.
And so just some considerations tonight. We are asking for the board to consider moving that St. Augusta area and the County Road 8 south of Minnesota Boulevard into the Clearview attendance area. This would be a proposal that would start 25-26 school year and would be optional for existing 742 students. New to district students would attend Clearview, and kindergarten students with siblings would utilize the same waiver process as Clearview immersion students. What that would mean as an example would be if I have a fourth grader who has attended Oak Hill and I am part of that St. Augusta boundary, and I have a kindergartner who's starting, that kindergartner could ride the bus and attend Oak Hill with that fourth grader for their fourth grade year in kindergarten year, their fifth grade year in first grade year. And once that fifth grader transitioned to middle school, that family would then have the option to do an in-district transfer request through a policy 599 or to transition with transportation to the Clearview school. This boundary adjustment, we did also want to mention, has no impact on middle or high school placements.
So the proposal for the Oak Hill area is outlined and bolded there in the black line. It is all of the area south of I-94, and then all of the area that's east of 43rd Avenue, which then turns into County Road 136. That current area currently has approximately 23 families that this would affect. When you go to the Lincoln-Talai area, again, it's outlined there in the bolded black lines. That is the area that is south of Minnesota Boulevard. If you're not sure what road that is what many call the Prison Road that comes off of Highway 10. The west boundary is the river, and the east boundary is Highway 10. And then it butts up to the current Clearview boundary on the south side. That area is a little bit larger family-wise. We're looking at approximately 89 families, I believe, just about 100 when you include pre-K. Both of those maps, just for awareness for everyone and anyone that's watching, both maps are available on the district webpage. It's not easy to see now, but if you download it off the webpage and you can zoom in, every street that's on there has the actual street name. And then we also did put a address finder where you can type in your address with an overlay of the district map, and the proposed areas are highlighted in a light blue, and families can see exactly where their house may fall in each of these areas.
With that, we will take any questions that you have.
Anybody have any questions at all? The is it southeast side? Is that going to be I'm just thinking about the busing, because you have to go up to the bridge and around. What kind of busing increased time would a child have?
Oh, that's a great question. So with all of these changes, really not very much. With all of the immersion that we have transportation happening with students all over the district, when we do an overlay of where our current students are that maybe go to Talai or Lincoln, and then who's attending Clearview for immersion, many of those spots overlap. And so we have buses going in and out of these areas already. We're just, instead of having two buses go, we'll actually have one bus go. It actually should make it a little more streamlined for those students. But that we won't go all the way to the bridge with this, right? Minnesota Boulevard is still south of the University Bridge. Does that make sense? So it would go essentially to where the curve on Riverside Drive starts to make the curve toward the stoplight. That's where the line would be. Yep, that's where the line would go. So we would avoid the bridge.
Is this going to be, it's just an information item. Is this come back as an action item then, next board meeting? Anybody else have any questions or comments at all? Natalie?
I know this was mentioned, but can you, whoever the right person is, give like a 50,000 foot overview of how we're talking with families about this?
Yeah, so we sent out a communication on Monday. Superintendent Putnam sent the message to both school communities. We also offered an opportunity for them to reach out with any questions. We got a handful of parents who reached out that we personally connected with. We shifted this to a discussion item tonight to hopefully generate some interest in reaching out with any questions that we make sure that we can ease their minds. And we also feel that having this be an option for 25-26 also gives families some flexibility in their choices. And so we welcome anyone to reach out with any questions, and we will be happy to discuss and talk with them.
For such a hot topic, this feels really soft and sound and calm and positive, I guess. Yeah.
Just a shout out quick to the Department of Ed too. I reached out to a contact, and within a matter, I talked to him on Friday, and by the end of the day, Monday, he had the map finder built for us with our own boundaries.
Wow.
Where parents could put in their own address. It puts a pin right on the map. So just a shout out to MDU for the help on that.
Yeah, nice tool. All right.
I started the conversation.
All right, thank you, guys. Okay, so next we have, moving on to reports, we have the Board of Education Standing Committee reports by the committee chairs, but I highly doubt the beginning of 2025 that we have not met because we just had our new assignments on Monday. So no reports there, correct? Okay. So then moving on to future agenda items, the January regular board meeting topics will include the Comprehensive Arts Planning Program, Apollo School presentation, Girls Soccer Co-op, and then the action item for the elementary school boundaries. At this time, does any board member want to suggest a future agenda item? Okay. So I'm looking for a motion to adjourn our board meeting.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Natalie, a second by Scott. All in favor to adjourn our board meeting? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so the board meeting is adjourned at 7:24, and at that same time, we are opening up our work session. On tonight's work session, we have two items. First up, the Full Service Community Schools presentation. Welcome Song Maxwell, Director of Partnerships for Student Success. This is exciting. And if you would introduce your team, that would be excellent. Thank you.
I did get it. Okay, thank you. Good evening, Chair Haas, Dr. Putnam, distinguished members of the board. Welcome to our new members, colleagues, and listening public. We are very delighted to be here tonight to present about the full service community schools. To my left, I have Amran Youssef, who is our site coordinator at Discovery, and to my right, Abdullah Mire, who is the site coordinator at North. Full-service community schools are not a new concept. They have been gained significant momentum in recent decades as a holistic way to support our students and their families. The roots of this model can be traced back to the early 20th century and the work of education pioneers like Jane Addams, who established settlement houses to provide social services alongside educational programs. The modern full-service community school approach emerged in the 1900s and 2000s with a coalition for community schools, defining them as both a place and a set of partnerships between the school and other community resources that integrate academics, health and social services, youth and community development, and community engagement. Today, there are over 5,000 full-service community schools across the United States. They are found in urban and suburban and rural communities. They are funded through a variety of sources, including federal grants, state and local funding, and private philanthropic support. Our full-service community school grant was awarded, a federal grant we were awarded for 5 years of funding. Year 1 was dedicated to planning, which is nice, not all grants provide that time. And then we are fortunate to have funding for 2 site coordinators to help lead the work in the schools. Our 129-page grant application will be our blueprint, and our assessments will help us refine our work. And if you would like to read that grant application, I am happy to send it to you. So what are full-service community schools? At their most basic level, they provide wraparound services to promote student success. So we put students in the center, and we bring them community partners and school resources, and they both provide, so it creates a hub of support for both students and for families, which is kind of a distinction from other things. The core components of a full-service community schools, and sometimes you will hear this referred to as pillars. The federal government and the state government kind of call them different things, but we can just call them 4 common things. They focus on expanded learning opportunities, so that's like before and after school programming and summer enrichment. So this is an all-year thing, not just an academic activity. Integrated student supports, which would include mental health services, nutrition assistance, and family engagement. Community-based partnerships that are leveraged, and local resources and expertise are utilized. Collaborative leadership, which is also kind of a different philosophy, I think, for a school district and other organizations, to have that building and here making sure that all voices, the staff, the students, the parents, the community partners are heard as you're building and learning in this process. These key components are going to help us build systemic change by providing these wraparound supports through collaborative partnerships and, most importantly, students and families gaining agency. That's kind of what excited me the most when I started engaging in this work and came back from the initial conference. You know, the possibilities are kind of endless in terms of what can happen with this work. Research consistently shows that there's a positive impact from full-service community schools. They have been linked to improved academic achievement, better school attendance, reduced disciplinary incidents, and stronger family-school community connections, things that we all want for our community. This model has proven particularly beneficial for students from low-income backgrounds and marginalized communities, and because of our vision of success of thriving students with equitable outcomes, we'll create stronger communities both inside and outside of our classroom and into our communities. So we have started with our 2 schools, as we mentioned before, with Discovery and North Junior High, and then services have been based upon needs assessments, which have been completed at both schools. Through our partnerships with local nonprofits, healthcare providers, and government agencies, these schools are going to offer a wide range of services: after-school tutoring and enrichment programs, on-site medical, dental, and mental health clinics, food shelves and clothing closets, and we're hoping to do adult education classes and job training and other parenting classes. So the goal is to address the comprehensive needs of the students and families, removing barriers to learning and empowering the entire community. So in closing, full-service community schools provide us an opportunity to challenge systemic racism by creating spaces and support for those most in need in our community where they go on a daily basis. By integrating academics, health, and social services in our institutions, we can drive positive change. I'm very proud that the St. Cloud School District is participating in this important work. So thank you for the opportunity to present an overview. We'll be happy to take any questions.
Anybody have any questions? Natalie?
Thank you, Song, and thank you, team, for being here and all of the work you've already done towards this wonderful project. Can you talk a little bit more about what went into the needs assessments, and were there things that surprised you that you learned from those needs assessment at Discovery and North, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think the greatest thing that we learned was that we did a family needs assessment, and we have, so if everyone wants to take two, these are from the needs assessments. We conducted a family needs assessment and a staff needs assessment, and I think the most wonderful thing about it was that the staff took it after the family, so they didn't see the information first, but the staff, what they identified as the needs of their families was exactly aligned with what the families had identified. Yeah, so they had, at both schools, so they have a deep pulse on what they need. So that was really the beautiful thing. So the needs assessments were conducted by survey. So we spent a lot of time surveying students and families. Some of them were done at connections conferences, and a lot were done also by follow-up phone calls. So it was a big process. And then the staff ones were conducted at staff meetings.
That always is nice when they align, because then obviously we're already doing,
Yes.
we're in the right direction, we can just continue
Absolutely.
expanding it. And then what has, I know it's been a long year, and yet it's like, wait, we're having to open now? What in the world? But what has encouraged you the most? And I'd love to hear from your partners as well. What has encouraged you most about this newer, I mean, not new compared to, the 1800s, but I mean, newer for our community. What encourages you about this
I
new
think,
way?
I'll have you two speak in a minute, but what encouraged me the most was really initially when Dr. Putnam put out the call to our partners. They came in numbers, and they have stayed, and they are with us, and they are excited to be doing this work. We already have community partners in our schools, right? I mean, they come and do things with us, but this is a more systematized way to create, so that's how we're going to sustain this work, by being able to roll this out to other schools once the system is built. But I think their dedication has been really wonderful. Yeah. Did you have anything you want to add?
Not, I think you said it all, but to actually meet the needs of our families. Like Sang said, we have food pantries. We have a closet where we have all the winter gears. So even getting calls from different schools. We have provided in ALC, students who are attending ALC. We had gave a lot of donation to other schools like Lincoln, Talahi, Madison, sharing with the foods, all the resources that we have. Even though we have two schools that are identified as a community partners, we also share all the resources with other schools.
I think Amran put it together nicely. Part of the reason for me as well was being new to the district as well, and new to St. Cloud. I think Song taking a chance on me and Amran as well, bringing new perspective to the team. We have a real small but mighty team, but looking to make big changes.
Wonderful. Thanks, you guys.
Heather?
I have a couple of comments and then one question. First of all, I appreciate that you provided historical perspective. And I think particularly because what it does is it normalizes that this isn't a new service for current immigrants. This goes back over 100 years, and it is normalizing that we have as a country and as communities across the country, we have been providing services to all sorts of immigrants for decades, literally. And so I think it's really important to provide that sort of historical perspective. The other point that I would make is wraparound services are very common at the university level and very accepted, that when you let your kids or you help your kids to move, particularly traditional aged, but even now as we see additional adult learners, they're continually looking at wraparound services and how they provide everything from health services to mental health to academic advising to everything. it's best practices. So I think that that sort of perspective is really important to this conversation and to the community understanding why this is important within our district. One question that I do have, because it's based upon needs, and I know around free and reduced lunch, there's stigma sometimes associated with that, which is why they really push for universal services. Do you see that same, if it's based upon needs, is it available to students of means? And if not, do you see a division or a lack of integration? And do students at Discovery and families at Discovery understand why it would be available to some students and not to others? And do we do education around that?
So my short answer is no. I don't see that, but I'm not in the school on a daily basis. I think Amran might be able to address that. Were you going to answer that? Is that what you were doing? No? That's not what you were doing?
No, like I said, like all the services is actually available for anybody who have a need. And I don't think it is a stigma. I think having that information, like kids would actually come and say, oh, I lost the mitten that you gave me the other day and I need one. I'm like, yep, absolutely, here you go. That you can come to this space. Teachers know that they can come into my room and request all the stuff that they need for the families. And if I can give you some numbers, so we had, I give out 48 hats, 62 mittens, 11 jackets, 39 boots, and 58 snow pants. And especially starting with the winter, that was a lot of stuff that the kids needed it. So, yeah.
The community school seems to be a centralization of services, but we only got 2 of them going, which means we have a lot of services that are decentralized or overlapping, or how are you working, kind of a 2-system deal?
Yep, this grant afforded us the ability to use 2 sites, and I think until the system is built, it doesn't roll out to more sites, but we're fortunate to have an elementary and a secondary school to start this work at. And it is not that this work isn't done at other schools, right? I mean, I think when Becky Estrada did her presentation, I was like, you're doing this, you're doing full service community school work. She just didn't get a grant to do it, right? So we got a grant and kind of a head start, and I really think that I hope the work that we're doing with our partners to kind of systematize it will make it easier to roll it out to future sites.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Thank you for being here, and thank you for every one of those pages of the grant. So much
you.
appreciated, all your hard work.
Thank you.
And your team. Thank you. Okay, last up tonight is the school's update. We have Nikki Hansen, again, Assistant Superintendent of E5 Learning, and Shannon Avison, Assistant Superintendent of E12 Educational Services.
I apologize. I'm having some technology difficulties today, but we will get this rolling. Oh, it just does not like my beautiful picture there. But I will roll anyways. Tonight for our elementary update, we get to highlight our Oak Hill Owls and their picture of safety, which I will put in the PDF for notes so that you can see later, is a beautiful picture of 2 lines within the gym space. And AP Anderson talks about the highlights of their physical education class where teachers always put safety first. Teachers are careful with equipment and rules, and that provides a safe and nurturing environment where children learn and are supported and cared for. Fortunately, pictures are working here now. This image represents belonging at Oak Hill. Every year, our second graders celebrate together on a school-wide anti-bullying parade on Unity Day. They spread their message of unity by promoting kindness and all the ways to stop bullying. Their message promotes community spirit, kindness, acceptance, and inclusion. This is an exciting one. This picture illustrates our district's collaboration and partnership with Great Theater. Our students and staff work together with Great Theater members to perform Finding Nemo, and this is that 5th grade play in a week. That is throughout all of our elementaries this school year. And this shared project enriches students' educational experiences and fosters a wide range of skills and attributes that contribute to their overall development and future success. And unfortunately, we have one more blank one, so hopefully this is better for you, Shannon. But this picture was a beautiful picture of Oakley the Owl and some students from December who received Student of the Month awards. Oak Hill celebrates monthly assemblies where they celebrate both their academic and their social emotional excellence.
It's looking better. I am presenting for Jason tonight, and it is short and sweet, and I am not asking him to give me any more because he is enjoying his time at home. He is sharing safety here. They had North Family Conferences this week, and so you can see pictures here of North Family Conferences in the gym. Also belonging, they had over 60 students at North compete in their annual spelling bee. Collaboration, students with good attendance got to participate in a no tardy party. I love it. Safety. Oh, whoops, sorry, went ahead there. The North Robotics team won awards at the last league tournament, and 3 out of 4 teams are already headed to the state tournament. And moving on to safety, I took some information from my student services team, and last month alone, we trained 90 bus drivers from Trobux and Spanier in reframing behaviors and de-escalation strategies. And this is new to us this year. We haven't done a lot of training with our bus drivers that we contract, so this is actually really exciting. Additionally, we are continuing to do restorative practices trainings for student support staff, our paraprofessionals. Today, we had a training actually in this room for our nutritional services staff for CPI training. And again, some really on building healthy relationships with students and how to repair harm. So that was really exciting. Let me see here. Belonging. Our goal is always to reinforce a sense of belonging for our students. Again, I think I've talked about Laurel Schoberg. She is going around to our elementary schools and supporting setting up these hubs, creating hallway hubs and regulation stations in elementary classrooms, which really just offer that in-the-moment opportunity for students to really get to self-regulate, and then some mindfulness so that they can just return to the classroom when they're ready. I think about 4 of our elementary rooms, as Nikki's nodding her head, and then Talahi's next they're working on. So it's just a beautiful opportunity for our students to be able to practice this on their own. Collaboration, this is United Way is here tonight. This is just another opportunity to show and highlight a beautiful collaboration with United Way. Over the last 4 years, we have got a grant through United Way where they help provide some funding for us to be able to get a general education social worker just for Talahi. We started out with her working specifically with kindergarten, and she has continued to work with those kids as they progress through 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade, and now she's working with over 200 students at Talahi, really closely with families. She does skills training, SEL lessons with those kiddos. She is just a huge part of that Talahi team. It's just a beautiful thing. And so we really appreciate that partnership with Talahi. And that's some United Way staff, and they come in and they get to observe her in action over there. And she's just a beautiful addition to the Talahi team.
And then high expectations and high support. That is one of our new clerical in my student services team, Debbie. We are now using SPED forms. It's a student management system for our 504 plans. 504 plans is an accommodation plans for students with disabilities who don't quite qualify for maybe an IEP for special education, but need an accommodation plan. What's really amazing about using SPED forms, we're one of the very, very few districts who are doing this, is that it really helps us be really diligent about doing 504s correctly, being very good about following accommodations in a really accurate way. The other thing that it does is when we are transferring 504s to other districts, it makes sure that students' 504s are being transferred correctly. Also, other districts are using SPED form systems for IEPs. So what that means is IEPs that we are transferring, because we are using it for IEPs as well. When students are moving from here to, let's say, Annandale or Kimball or anywhere else, a student's record is being transferred. All of it is really kind of seamless. Probably about 2 or 3 years ago, we were using a different system, and it just was much more complicated. So our transferring into this new SPED form system has just been a really good thing for our staff, for our students, and really for our entire team. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, wow, that's an impressive first out of the gate. Just setting that bar high or low or whichever one. Okay, looking for a motion to adjourn our work session. And a motion by Natalie.
Second.
And a second by Scott. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you very much. Work session is adjourned at 7:48 PM. Have a good night and thanks for watching.
Lori,
I know.
can I ask you a question about this grant? Is this during the day or is this in the evening? Okay. Okay, that's what I thought.